So a lot of companies think an RFQ is just sending your supplier a bunch of step files along with the materials. And yes, you can do this, but expect to get some pretty crappy quotes and to have a lot of back and forth in return. The better way to do this is to standardize what you're sending. That's really what an RFQ is. It's a bunch of data that is sent to each supplier. Then your supplier, they're able to digest this and then send you over a quote. And in this video, I'll cover exactly what an RFQ is, what you need to include, what your supplier is doing behind the scenes once they get it, what you should and should not expect to get back from them, and what to do once you have your RFQ. So what is an RFQ? It's what you send your supplier so they're able to provide you with a quotation in return. And that's it. It's not an order and there's no commitments. You're just asking, hey, based on everything I'm about to give you, what is this going to cost and how long is this going to take for it to get made? And that part really does matter. Based on everything I'm about to give you, the more complete and accurate your information is, the more accurate it's going to be for the quotes. If you leave something out or you send them something that's outdated, then your quote will not be accurate. Or they're going to come back to you with a bunch of questions. Either way, this is going to be slowing you down. So what do you need to send your supplier for the most accurate quotes? Start with your BOM, your bill of materials. The BOM is a list of all parts along with the materials, fabrication process, the finish, and any other secondary processes. Now, you might not know everything. For example, you might not quite know the right fabrication method for each part that is going to be made. Maybe it's aluminum, but you're not sure if it should be die-casted or CNC. And that's fine. This really does happen all the time. Just fill in what you know and ask the supplier to recommend a process based on the material and your target volumes. Along with the BOM, send your step files, your product requirements, and your target forecasts. And yes, your forecasts actually matter here, because prices will change with the volume. A supplier is going to quote you differently if you need 100 versus 10,000 units. So at 100 units, your supplier might quote that aluminum part using CNC. But for 10,000 units, they will quote that same aluminum part for die cast. I'll say this again because it's important. The more information you give your supplier, the more accurate that quote is going to be. And if you send them something that is outdated, an old part revision, a forecast that's no longer realistic, then you will not get an accurate quote. The quote is only going to be as good as the data you provide. One more thing that you do need to include, and people forget this all the time, is the number of samples that you need. A supplier isn't going to jump right into production. They're going to build you a prototype first. Sometimes it's called a golden sample. And they're going to want your sign off on it in order to proceed. So tell them up front how many samples that you need, and this will save you a lot of time. So let's assume you sent your supplier a decent RFQ. Now, what happens on their end? First, as you would expect, they have to learn a little bit more about your product. They will need to study the files and make sure that all of the relevant information is included. If you're working with a contract manufacturer, a lot of the time, they're going to be taking your BOM and splitting it up and send each part to their sub-tier suppliers. They're not going to be sending your entire project to every single supplier. They're just going to be sending the plastic parts to the plastic suppliers and so on. Once that's sorted, the actual quoting is going to start. At this point, you might get some high-level feedback like, hey, this part can't really be made the way it is designed. It's not going to be DFM, but they will be able to tell you some major red flags. After the individual parts are quoted, then your supplier will look at the assembly, packaging, and quality costs. However, it's common for this not to be included in early RFQs. It's common for these not to be included in the first round of the quotations. So what your supplier will send you is basically going to be a full BOM with each part having a quote associated with it. For this RFQ, a supplier will not have the time nor the capacity to share everything with you. Again, an RFQ stands for Request for Quotation. So their main goal is to get you a quote. So there are some things you might expect but will not really get from this initial RFQ. One will be full DFM or design for manufacturing review. This one takes real engineering time from the supplier, and usually they're sub-tier suppliers. A supplier can start DFM after the quotation has been accepted and you wish to proceed with them. Another one is tooling analysis. This one is also for later down in the conversation. Once you're actually closer to placing an order, not while you're still shopping around and getting quotes from other suppliers. Basically, if something takes a lot of resources that's not related directly to the quotes, then you will most likely have to forget it at this stage. Okay, so you sent your RFQ to multiple suppliers and now quotes are starting to come in. First thing you should do is check everything for accuracy. Suppliers, yes, they do make mistakes and sometimes they make assumptions that are not correct. So go through each quote and actually confirm the materials, the processes, the specs, and that everything matches what you called out. Once you're done with that, now you can compare the actual quotes. But here's the thing. The quotes alone do not tell the entire whole story. This is your chance to evaluate your suppliers based on the quotes and other things as well. Some questions you can ask yourself are, did they ask some pretty good questions during the process? Were they trying to collaborate with you or did they just stay quiet and make some assumptions? How fast did they offer feedback? And did they communicate properly during this entire RFQ process? All of that tells you what it's actually going to be like working with them after you place your first order. And honestly, that matters so much more than the price actually does. So that's the RFQ process. Standardize what you send, give your suppliers accurate information, and then you can evaluate your supplier on the quotes and other things as well. If you're looking for a way to speed this up, then check out OpusFab. We offer instant quotes, instant TFM feedback, and live part status after you purchase. We connect you with the right supply chain partners for early prototypes all the way to mass production. Thank you for watching.